This video is going to be a lot different than the other ones. I'm just going to be talking a little more randomly after the recap, so it's definitely better to have watched the show first. Also, spoilers for this and previous arcs. Hey everyone, I'm Wheeze. Check out the other parts of the series if you want to hear my full thoughts on the other arcs. Let's get into the recap and then into my thoughts. After the events of York New City, Kurapika collapses from exhaustion, and Leorio has to take his exam for medical school, so the group once again splits up. Gon and Killua attempt to purchase Greed Island to get the next clue to finding Jing, but they are outbid by a billionaire who is looking for hunters to complete the game. So Gon and Killua get examined by Batara, the billionaire, and Suzugara, a pro hunter working for Batara. After some training, Gon and Killua improve a lot very quickly, and they are allowed to try to complete the game. Once they arrive, they find themselves transported to a complex game of facing challenges to collect cards in restricted slots put in a binder that every player has. Once every card is collected, the player finishes the game. However, there are also action cards that let you steal cards from other players, among other things. If you die in the game, you die in real life. However, your cards cannot be taken after you die. As Gon and Killua work to complete the game, they encounter a woman named Biscuit, who is the teacher of Wing, and she offers to help them train. While they improve their nen, several groups have been formed among the players to finish the game and split the reward. Then, a player with a nen ability to place bombs on people starts manipulating his way to completing the game by threatening other players. As Gon and Killua face some challenges and get close to finishing the game, the bomber, Genthru, threatens Gon and he challenges him to a fight. Through strategic planning, Gon, Killua, and Biscuit defeat Genthru and his two friends. After getting all the cards from the defeated villains, they go through a final test for the last card, which completes the game. As part of winning the game, Gon gets to take 3 of the cards as items to use in real life. However, Greed Island is still technically real life, as it is a physical island that is used to house the game. He takes 2 items that allow him to take a company, which transports him to a player, and he chooses his father, Jing. Gon and Killua appear next to a man fishing who they assume to be Jing. It's not. I know I skipped a lot of things in the recap, but I'm going to talk about a lot of them in a bit. So first, this arc was not my favorite. It had some good moments, but overall it felt a little too long and needlessly complicated. I think it glossed over the most interesting parts and focused on some of the more boring, tedious parts of the show. I'll get into exactly what those are later in the video. For now, let's talk about the new characters. Genthru and his gang were some of the worst villains in Hunter x Hunter. They just sucked, and I did not like them. After having the amazing Phantom Troop focused on in York New, this arc's villains went back to uninteresting, bad villains who had zero class or interesting motivations. Bisky was fine. I liked her a lot more than Wing, but overall, she never really got there for being a great character. She just felt like she lacked something from her personality. Suzugara was a bright spot. He was a veteran hunter focused on his job. I don't know, I liked him a lot and got more interested in him as the arc went on. Finally, there was Razor, who was a good antagonist for this arc, unlike Genthru. He made the game with Jing and other friends who still helped keep the game running. The game masters were all pretty likable people. List and Dune were great, even though we only got a few minutes with them. On to the best and worst parts of this arc. Having the Phantom Troop slightly involved in the background made Genthru's screen time even worse, as we could see the truly great characters for only a short period of time. Them working with Hisoka to find a nen exorcist was far more interesting than most of the training and bomber stuff. Unfortunately, it was very glossed over. Hisoka was one of the best parts of this arc. I love the trope of the bad guy teaming up with the heroes, and it works especially well with Hisoka. Him working with Killua and Gon was amazing. I liked Bisky pretending to be in love with him too. None of them trusted him, so there was a lot of tension, but Hisoka came through. What a nice guy. Obviously, the best part was getting to see Hisoka with wet hair. We also got Gon's rock, paper, scissors, or Jankin, which is cool, I guess. I still liked his fishing pole better. Killua's lightning and yo-yo powers made up for Gon's kinda lame ability though. Killua had some great moments. I love seeing him just wrecking opponents who underestimate him. I have to mention the dodgeball game, which was the best fight of this arc. Hunter x Hunter again uses unique challenges to give a winner instead of just brawls, and it's really fun. There were high stakes, and Gon's ability is used in one of the best ways because he can take his time to power up his ability. Killua is the the real hero, with holding the ball using minimal aura to not slow the velocity. The end of the game with Hisoka using bungee gum, Gon's powerful attacks, and Killua's crazy concentration and resistance to pain all working together to defeat Razor was fantastic and satisfying. Before I get into the final fight with Genthru, I wanted to talk about my complaints and how I would improve the majority of the arc. Now, I understand that training is important and showing the progression and how their powers work and all of that. However, I would have liked more detail of them adventuring and finding the cards to give a more satisfying conclusion to when they finally completed the game. They could have done training through the challenges it took to obtain the cards. I just didn't feel any progression and stopped caring about it because I figured they would get them all somehow, and that's what happened. The other thing I was expecting was a showdown with the spell cards and have an epic Yu-Gi-Oh style battle in the end. But unfortunately, we got a real fight, which I thought was good, but overall less interesting. Plus, there's Paladin's necklace, which just seems to negate all the effects of spell cards, so that seems kinda busted. Overall, they gave a lot of explanation for how the game worked, when it really didn't seem to matter that much to the plot. Also, Killua goes through the Hunter exam at some point in this arc to get his license. I was expecting this to be a time for another struggle that Gon would have to overcome without Killua, something that, with Killua out of the picture, would make it a lot harder and improve Gon. But he just kinda passed the test and came back with no consequences. However, this gave us another epic Killua moment. They start a battle royale with the starting contestants. Take the badges of 5 people and only 300 could pass. As the examiner waits, Killua finally enters the room after an hour and a half saying, "It took me a while to collect all the badges." Then he is allowed to pass instantly as he single-handedly defeated everyone. Alright, with all those complaints out of the way, the final fight with the bomber was really great. I liked the strategies used by Gon to defeat someone who was a stronger fighter. Killua was amazing in his fight, but the thing that really made me jump out of my seat in a what the heck moment was Bisky's transformation into her true form that she hides because she wants to be more feminine. It was a great moment for fighting the guy that underestimated her because of her appearance. She promptly defeats him. I was kind of expecting Gon to refuse taking the cards from others because he would want to do it all himself, but instead he gets the cards, does the test, and wins the game. The game masters at the end were fun, quirky characters, but Gon uses the cards to find Jing, which doesn't work because Jing had them program it to throw him to Kite instead. Jing is a pretty interesting character, and we are slowly getting to see a bit more of him. The final thing I want to talk about is Batara's sad story. You don't get to see why he wants them to complete Greed Island until there is a point that Suzugara returns from the game and sees Batara crying. He reveals he was only trying to complete it because a woman he loved was in a coma for years, and he wanted to restore her health and his youth so they could have a long, happy life together. But she died a few days earlier, so he doesn't care anymore. They even planned to leave his luxurious lifestyle, as she did not care about materialistic things. I really liked this part of the story. His motives weren't clear, but he seemed like a rich person just spending his money on a hobby. Seeing the truly emotional struggle that this man is going through was eye-opening. Usually rich people, especially the older, extremely rich type like Batara, are so unrelatable because their lives are so different from even people who can afford a lot of luxuries. However, a human is still a human, and seeing his desperation for the only thing he really cares about was a sad reveal, especially since they were so close to completing it. Greed Island was a fine arc, but I don't think it was written to the heights of its potential. It was a very unique setting for a story that, with some slight changes, could have taken place anywhere with other circumstances. On to my favorites. Favorite character for this arc was Killua, then Hisoka, then Bisky, then Gon, and finally Suzugara. If we got more of the Phantom Troop, I probably would have some of its members on here. My favorite moment was the dodgeball game. It was everything good about Hunter x Hunter fights. The combination of the complex rules, deep strategy, along with learning more about the world and the characters. All around great. Next best moment was either Batara's backstory or Killua's fight with Genthru's teammate, Sub. Overall favorite characters, we have Killua, now where he belongs, at number 1. His character gets better every arc, and he still hasn't reached his potential. Next is Kurapika, still amazing after his moments in Yorknu, then Chrollo, then Hisoka, who is pretty close to passing Chrollo, but not quite. Finally Gon, who has managed to stay in the top 5 all this time. My top arcs are Yorknu at number 1, Hunter Exam at number 2, Greed Island at number 3, Heaven's Arena is number 4, and Zoldyck Family arc is number 5. Thanks for watching. Chimera Ant arc is next week. I may do a part 1 and part 2, I don't know. There's a lot to cover there, and I have a lot to talk about, so hopefully you enjoy. Subscribe and turn on notifications to see that video when it comes out. Ja meow!